Alrighty, guys, it is 3:30 this Wednesday, May 14th, and we are slopping around in the rain. That's what we are doing. A couple of attempts to take it lower. The biggest one right here before the 2 o'clock hour. They retrace right back up to the mean, and since then we just been slopping around the mean, going back and forth and chopping up any kind of attempts to trade this. This is just impossible, not impossible to trade, but pretty darn hard if you want to fade edges, because see us kind of flopping around the mean here. So the best you can do is to try to get short when they start extending, and then see if they rotates back to the mean, and hopefully you're not in that in that iteration where they actually start extending. So that's where we are on the ES now. Going into tomorrow, I'm going to write off this day as more of a range bound day, holding pattern day, kind of pause day. Tomorrow morning, though, we have a ton of news. At 8:30, we get jobless claims, PPI, retail sales, Philly Fed, and Empire State. Jerome Powell speaking at 8:40. At 9:15, we get industrial production. And then at 10 o'clock, we get business inventories and housing market data. So it is a busy morning tomorrow, for sure. The day is a holding pattern. We'll see how it goes, how it ends up closing. But I would say range-bound bias is still to the upside. That's how we get started into the overnight. Now, looking at the NASDAQ and the bonds. NASDAQ and the bonds. The bond market is still down at the lower end of this range. It looks like they're almost taking out the lower edge, and that would not be a great sign. That would be a bad scenario if they start extending past this level and past this four-letter edge. It looks like they're almost there. And they can run it down here to the 111.15 or even down to the 110.15. So that could be the yield spiking out towards 5% of that, if that's the case. So that could be a little bit brutal for the stock market, but it's, so far the stock market is still rallying in light of that, but yields are going higher, that's for sure. So I would start from the short side, see how far I can take it. If they retrace past this four-letter edge at the 112.25s, I would just take off the short fires and go back range bound. NASDAQ, no trades on the NASDAQ or the ES for me today. I did the gold trade early on, and that was it. But you can see here NASDAQ, they extended to the upside today, and it's still pretty much in a holding pattern, holding on to the range, and they're not quite at that attractor. They're kind of above it, so they're running into resistance at this level right there, if 21,400. So we'll see if they can bust through this or not. Tomorrow would be the day. The news is good. They'll bust through this. So I would start off range bound bias to the upside still, same as the ES. Looking to buy a weakness. And I'll go back to ES and talk about the range. I forgot to talk about the ranges, but basically an edge is going to be run here at the 320s, going to be one down here at the 270s, and one here at the 230s for rotations back up. And if they take out the 230s, I would still give it down to that the 190 level before I take off the long bias. On the way up, not going to be super aggressive on the short side at all. And then finally, oil and gold. Gold trade early on this morning. That was the only trade I took. That was a $90 trade right from the get-go. That was right here at the low, at the previous low when they were heading lower, right there. And that first run down here, that little retracement, I got in on one trade, one and done. They went sideways from there, and now we're down here against the lower end. They're taking out the 3200s and heading lower. So I was in that what was it? A period in this area where I took my long trade, but they're all the way down here to the 3170. So I'm looking for them to run it down all the way down to 3000. That's how far that they can run this. There's going to be some support in the way down, but the goal is right now being sold in favor of getting on the equities. So you'll run into some support right here at the 3170s. There'll be some support in the middle here at 3150s. But there's not a whole lot of stuff going on until you get down here towards that 3000 level. So this whole area here could potentially be retraced pretty quick. So that's kind of what I'm looking for. So staying on the short shot on gold, they're going to sell strength for rotations back down. If they trade up above this area, the 3200, that would be above that low volume area, then take off the long bias and go back range bound. Maybe even start looking for retracement to the upside. But look for short setups against that 3195, 3203 to 4s, and then gets the mode here at 3185s, rotations back down. And then one on oil, that's range bound trading on oil. That's going sideways. Tomorrow's going to be the last trading day on this expiration. So I'm not touching oil close to the expiration. It's getting too sloppy. But it is not moving a whole lot. So yes, pretty much range bound. Looks like they're backing off that 64 edge, heading back down again. And that would be consistent with oil, just testing this upper edge here on oil and the capital flow, and then rotating right back down again into value. So value would be down here at 62 in the near term. And the next level of support, I think, is going to find here at the 59, 70 to 50 to 60 level. But right now, I think the rotation down to 62 is probably the more likely option right here. So starting off with a slight bias to the downside to see if they can take it down to that 62 level. All right, so that's it. That's one trade, one and done in this morning, and that was it. Up 90 bucks on gold. And on the ES, back to that guy, looking to buy weakness against the 58.95s. It's going to be one edge here at the 58.90s, and then one probably edge here at the 58.80s for rotations back up again. Now the 58.80 edge, yeah, that's done here. So I would say below that edge, 58.90, I would take off the long bias and look for a more of a retracement trade. So that's how we get started on the overnight. All right, so that's it, guys. I'm gonna wrap it up here, and we'll see you back in the morning for a busy news morning. All righty, guys, you have a good evening. Later.